Well, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Today's the day we've been looking forward to. Today's the day I've been looking forward to. I'm gonna start cutting this bed. It looks like it's 10 foot long down to a short bed. We're gonna do 3 videos on this. Probably gonna do a bedside, video on the bed floor, video on the frame. I don't know. We may put the bed floor in. It depends on how quick all this goes. But anyway, I'm breaking this bed apart. I'm pulling the bedsides off, bed floor off, actually cutting the bed floor on the frame. That's one thing I like to do. All of them I've ever cut. But for right now, I've got this bedside ready to come off. I've got a bunch of junk in the back of it, the inner fenders and some wheels. But I'm going to get this bedside pulled off. It's ready to come off, everything except for the tailgate. But anyway, if you're a long bed lover or a purist enthusiast or whatever, like my dad, thinking it ought to be all original, you're probably not going to watch this video because we fixing to do some slicing and dicing on this bed. And I have been looking forward to this since the day I brought this truck home. So if you want to see how we can screw up a good long bed truck, hang around. Let's get to cutting. Get to cutting. Well, let's get to cutting this bed down. I'm just kidding. We're not using the torch on it yet. All right. Before anybody gets upset that I'm cutting up perfectly good long bed, the old truck is solid, but it does have rust. Dents. It has tons of dents. That bedside right there is going to be fun to cut down. So, I mean, it's not a perfect long bed truck. So, don't get your panties in a wad. And if you're still upset, you know what they say. It's better to be pissed off than pissed on. And unless you're kind of into that sort of thing, then just keep that in your own bedroom. So, let's get started cutting them down. All right, so I'm going to lay this out with this framing square, this speed square, little 45 speed square. This window on this square, I think it's about 1/4 of an inch. So it is pretty close when I laid it up here where I want to cut the front of the bed. You'll want to cut the front of that bed. Yeah. You want to cut the front of this bed as close to this as you can. If you cut it right in here, and I know if you watched the 87, us cut my son-in-law's 87 down, it wasn't really ideal, but we were in a hurry trying to do it in 2 days. It takes more time. We cut it further over in this area. But the closer you can cut to this, the more strength you've got, the less warpage you're going to have cutting close to this edge. You can do it either way. If you get over in this area more, just take your time. Don't want to build up too much heat grinding. I will tell you, these bedsides are a lot thicker than a 73 to 87. They feel it anyway. May not be, but they feel it. So what I'm going to do is take my speed square, lay it up here against the edge. I've just got a little pocket screwdriver. If you watched the last video, I use this a lot when I start working the sheet metal up and down. And I am going to use that little window to mark me a 1/4 inch line right down the front of this. Now, as you're going over these dips, kind of take your time, be careful with it, you know, because your screwdriver can wander. And this line, I mean, you need to get it as straight as you can get it, but as long as your second line is exactly, on these trucks, it's 12 inches. As long as your second line is exactly 12 inches from that, I mean, it can be in a wave shape as long as the other one parallel with this one. So once I get this line laid out, we're going to lay out the stake pocket. Then we'll start measuring our 12 inch mark on a 73 to 87. This is 14 inches. Just remember 67, 72. Actually, I think 60 to 72, 12 inches, 8 inches. You're taking 20 out of both of them. You're only taking more out of the front on a 73 to 87. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get this side taped up right down my cut line. use some of this $10 a roll tape. I'm going to try to pull me off a pretty good run of it. Keep it as straight as I can before I start pushing it down. Should have went and got some of the cheaper blue tape that I've done this with, but this is just what I had, so. All right, so I've got this mark laid out. I'm going to, just so I remember, I think I'll remember, put me a few arrows on which side I want to cut this on. Got my tape line laid out on the front here. Is start laying out my 12-inch mark. And like I said, 67 to 72, 12 inches shorter. The 73 to 87s, 14 inches shorter in the front. My old framing squire's rusty, so I take a Sharpie and mark over my 8-inch, because we will be removing 8 from the back, and my 12-inch marks. So what I'm going to do is line this corner up with my outside, my cut mark on my front cut. Come over here, put me a nick. You can use a Sharpie here. I kind of like to use something with a little finer point than a Sharpie. One reason I'm just scratching it with a pocket screwdriver. 12 inches. So I'm going to go on down through here, finish marking all these out. So I've got all my nick marks laid out. What I'm going to do here is just try to pull me a tape line off of them. And once I get the tape line laid out, we will go through and remeasure. Double check everything. All right, so now I got both my tape lines laid out. We're going to go through and I'm going to take a tape measure. I worked construction for years. If I ever wanted a precise measurement, you know, the end of your tape measure is supposed to give the width of that. I always cut an inch or two. So I'm going to cut 2 inches. Should have 14 over here. That's going to throw some of y'all off. That's going to throw some of y'all off. But trust me, I'm going through. We'll have 12 inches on each one of these. So I'm going to go through, double check my measurements here, and we'll start laying out the cut around the front stake. I'm going to lay the stake pocket out. I'm going to come just far enough in front of this to keep the stake pocket. What I'm going to do, though, to get my line where I cut down through here to make sure it kind of matches this way, I'm putting this framing square up there, just kind of eyeballing it, but I'm going to keep the same. We've got about a 1/4 inch of the inside of the bed rail showing below the square. So what I'm going to do, that lets me know it's pretty well straight across through here. I'm going to use a Sharpie and just mark me a line right across through there. And hopefully I didn't go too far, and I'm sure I did, where some of that Sharpie's going to be in my paint. Huh. Sure I did. So what I'm going to do, let's see, I'll get you a measurement about how far I'm going to come. I'm going to just go about 1 inch in front of the stake pocket. That should be enough to where I miss the lip. Going to run my speed square up. From that mark. And then I need to get my 12-inch mark. I'm going to go ahead and lay this out with tape. That way I know exactly I've got a good edge to measure from instead of that big fat line. Mark all these. where I'm cutting on the correct side, lay out 12 inches from this back to this point. We're going to do a nick with it. Put my square back up here, go to this side of that Sharpie mark, scribe me a little line right there, tape it. All right, so I got me a line scribed. We'll line my tape up with it. And I've got this cut taped on the top. You don't have to do this, but I'm gonna lay this out right like this right here. I want to double check my measurement with the tape measure. 12 inches. And mark my cut sides. Make sure when you go to cutting you don't get messed up on where you're supposed to be cutting. All right, so we've got it all laid out. I'm gonna get me a razor blade, clean up some of these corners, and I'll be right back. 12 inches. So I'm gonna get me some cutoff wheels. You'll see me using a lot of new cutoff wheels. When they start getting wore down, I like to change them out, cutting a bedside or any kind of sheet metal part, because the smaller they get, the more you can wander with them. And when I cut these, I am going to hug that tape line as tight as I can, both sides, because you can end up cutting out too much with the width of the blade. Not enough that you would ever notice it, but you could get a little carried away. So I'm gonna get the grinder out here, get me some safety glasses and earplugs, and get going. All right, got the outer skin cut. I'm going to flip this bedside over, get everything off of it, and we'll get the inside marked out. All right, on the inside, we're just going to come off of our cut marks where we have just cut, square off the bed rail. I'm going to just use a Sharpie on this. A lot of rusting down here in the insides of these bedsides down toward the bed floor. Tape is not going to want to stick, I'm pretty sure. I actually meant to pressure wash these up a little bit before I and I'm going to cut this one first so I have my end piece that I need. I'm going to go up on the inside of it, wire brush it, clean it up a little bit, shoot a little bit of paint in there, and I'll show you when we get completely done. I'm going to try to come up in here and paint as much of the inside of the seam as I can. I'm ready to start tack welding this puppy back together. This side's just going to be, yeah, kind of a reference till we start pulling the tape. Because the way this falls in, you can't really get the square down in there good. Pretty much this line, we're going to kind of just put a piece of tape up here and move it around till we get our 12 inches between the two. So now, and I'm cutting a couple inches, so that is 12. So I'll put you back on time lapse, get these cut out, and we'll be ready to start cleaning this side up, getting it tacked back together. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do the front complete before I do the back. Maybe not complete, but it's going to be, for the most part, complete. You know, want it all tacked back together, lined up good, and welded good enough it ain't going to move before I start cutting the back part off of it. So I'm going to start up here. When you plunge in this area, be sure and don't go too deep all the way up in the top, or you'll cut through the outer skin. So you want to make sure you just cut through the inner part of the bedside. So I'm going to cut the front one first. This will be the chunk you remove. 12 inches from the outside, 12 inches from the inside. The piece you have left over that we are going to tack weld back in is pretty much just the front head panel and stake pocket. Before we get started welding it up though, we're going to do some cleaning up. All right, so this is going to be my main concern of getting lined up for now. I want to get these corners matched up, lined up. I'm going to run me a straight edge, make sure this isn't, you know, cocked up or down, or but getting all this lined up. Once I get this lined up, I may go ahead and tack it, put a couple tacks here on the corners, and then I'm going to come inside and get my butt weld clamp. If you watch the 86 video, if you watch a lot of videos, people doing sheet metal work, if you ain't got any of these, you do any sheet metal work, I mean, these come from Harbor Freight. Like, there's nothing. They are very handy for holding two pieces of sheet metal together till you can get them tack welded on. So I'm going to get one set up here, probably one here to keep my height this way, and then we'll put a couple on the inside. Yeah, we can work with that. So what I'm going to do is get me a tack right here in this corner. I'm going to get my straight edge, run it down through here, my framing square, and make sure that that's running pretty well flat still. And good. So I'm going to get the welder started up. We're going to roll with it. We're going to roll with it. We're going to eyeball down underneath here. I know you can't see it on the camera, but we are looking pretty good. Looking pretty good down here too. Clamp off, even though it felt really good in the middle, this bottom corner. So I'd rather work it with a screwdriver and just feel it as I go. The butt clamps are good for holding it to start off with, but push it in just a hair. Just a few small tacks down through here. Like I said, I start at the top, work my way down. If you was to start down here and up here, and one panel had a little more metal in it than the other, you're gonna have a scrunched up, you're either gonna have a bow to have to try to push down, flatten out, or you're going to end up having to push a bow to try to stretch it to get a little more. So anyway, that's as far as I'm going to go with the inside right now. I'm going to flip it over and get the front done. So here's my front side, what it's looking like. And I'm liking it so far. Looking really good. Got a little spot where it may be a little tight, but if you'll notice right here what I'm talking about, if I was to weld here and down here, more than likely I'm going to have too much metal right here to push out. So what we're going to do, we're going to start here. I'm going to go ahead and tack all this around through here and work my way this way, lining everything up as I go. That way we can work the metal out all the way down to the bottom. And this side I will not use no butt clamps on. They won't fit. I'm pretty sure they won't fit, you know, because I came so close to this edge. But coming close to this edge, you know, warpage is going to be non-existent pretty much on the front because we're so close to this rigid area where the bed side is rolled over. So I'm thinking if I just take my time, small tacks, I can have a pretty small scar around through here. So I'm going to work my way on down, just spot welding this. I'll come back when I have it all spot welded up and we'll see how it looks. And there it is, all tacked up. And man, it fit really good. With the exception of right in here, right in there. My little screwdriver slipped about the time I pulled the trigger. But all in all, turned out really good. If I can keep it like that, I may keep the scar. I don't know. Still not really a fan of them. We'll see. All right, so I bought one of these band files. I've got some 36 grit, 80 grit, and 120. So I'm going to try to knock these down. I'm not going to take any of the fender off. I'm going to try this thing out. Never used one of them in my life. Have no idea if it's going to work or fly apart or what. But we're going to give it a whirl here. See how it does. This is from Hobo Freight. It's the beer, whatever. So let's give it a whirl. Thing's going to work out pretty good, I think. Like I said, I've never used one of them. I'm not going to take a lot of material this first pass. Just going to kind of knock my spot welds down. I'm going to come back through, fill in these between these spot welds, knock it down, and see. I mean, I think those are 1/2 inch wide. If I can do all this like this and leave a 1/2 inch scar, I may scar it. We'll see. We'll see. All right, the front is done. So all you bed scar lovers better take a good look at them because they're probably not staying. I just can't make myself like them. I don't know. All right, so on the back, I didn't measure anything. I just pulled me a tape line. I actually wanted to come back further. This is a 67, so it doesn't have the marker lights. If it did have the marker lights, they'd be cut out of it. If it was mine, you don't have to. But I was wanting to come back further, but I got a pretty good dent here. Don't have anything to get in here to get it out, so I'm going to leave the dent. Like I said, I'm not trying to make anything perfectly straight. Just anywhere I was going to cut, I was going to try to get the dents out. I hammered a little of this one out, probably made it look worse than what it was. Anyway, I've got this tape line laid out. I'm going to come over, this will be my cut side. I'm going to cover over 8 inches, come over 8 inches, get my other tape line laid out, and then we'll do the jockey at the top. If you're curious how far forward I came, I didn't really go by anything. I just guessed, and it actually is exactly 6 inches from the outside edge of the bed in the middle of the tail light. So for the most part, yeah, I done good. Good eye, good eye. So I'm gonna get the other tape line laid out real quick, and then we'll come back and jockey the top over. I've got both my vertical cut lines laid out. If you look at one of these bedsides, this body line drops down in the back. You have more of a flat area here than you do up here. So to offset that, you're going to want to cut this at an angle. That helps everything kind of work back together. If you was to cut it straight and cut this straight, this curve would be way down below that curve. So what I'm going to do is lay off of this line. This was my first cut line, and like I said, I really wanted to get this line back further, but due to that big dent, you know, I'm gonna jump forward. Like I said, I think it's 6 inches. Yeah, it's quite a bit more than what I wanted to come. I actually wanted it back nearly at the back of the bed. Um, the other bedside, it's rougher than this one. It'll probably end up in about the same spot. But anyway, what I'm gonna do is step this over, we're gonna say about 5 inches. So I'm gonna come over 5 inches. Remember, the way I've got my tape laid out, I'm gonna be cutting on the outsides of both of these. So that's the side I wanna measure from. And I'm not gonna use that for this. I've actually got a small square, I wish I had. And when you're even laying these out, if you're using a square, keep that square lined up with your tape. You don't want it running up or down one way or the other. Now if I can see, 3, 4, 5 inches. So I'm gonna put me a nick mark at 5 inches. I'm gonna put me another nick at 5 inches right here. I'm gonna pull me a piece of tape off of that. I know this is looking confusing, looking confusing, but give me just a few minutes and it'll start to make sense. Maybe. I hope it makes sense. So now I'm going to go 8 inches from that cut mark. Put me a few nicks. And I'm only going down because I'm going to cut this angle in the flat part of the bed. So I've measured 8 inches from this cut mark over, got me some nick marks laid out. I'm going to pull me a tape line on those. Then we're going to double check the measurement. Should be 8 inches. 8 inches. And I'm going to come back and make sure these are square on both of those here in just a second. So, all right, so next I'm going to just take my framing square. You want to cut this point kind of in this flat. You don't want to get up into the curve. So I'm going to take this speed square and go about 3 inches down and put me a mark. So 3-inch mark, 3-inch mark. On this roll, I was looking, this speed square is 7 inches to the end. That gets me off of this curve up closer into this flat. So we're going to just go to the end of this speed square. 7 inches, 7 inches. Next, we're going to just pull us a tape line from that point to that point. I'm going to go from this point. I'm going to go through and double check all these measurements. Like I said, go through and check all your measurements. All of them. All of them. And put your cut marks, your arrows for your cuts. I'm going to get a razor blade clean this up, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's all completely laid out. All right, so I got me a razor blade. This is gonna make a lot more sense right here in just a minute. I got my big fat head right in the way. You can see I'm cutting on this side. I've got 8 inches from this side to this side. 8 inches parallel this way. Whatever you do when you lay this out, don't try to get 8 inches this way. You're not going to have it. So got everything laid out. I'm going to double check these for square down the front, because I did not quite lay them out. That is perfect. And it is ready to cut. So I'm gonna get the grinder out and get the cutting. All right, so I got the lines laid out, 8 inches. The way I laid my tape out, I'm gonna be cutting on the outside of both of these. These kind of look cattywampus on camera because of the curve and all, but I've double, triple checked them for square, and this point looks different than this one because I'm cutting to the inside on this one, the outside on that one. So I'm gonna get the grinder out here, get us cut off wheel, and get started cutting. All right, so now I'm going to take my framing square, come off of the top here, line up with the top of my cut, and do the same thing I did on the front. And like I said, this is just kind of for a guide for my tape. I'm gonna come through, measure everything, double check it in a minute. All right. Okay, so I got both of those tape lines laid out. I'm gonna just go through here, make sure I have 8 inches, and we are looking pretty good. Pretty and good both. Pretty and good. So I'm gonna get the grinder back out. I'm gonna put me a new wheel. Remember what I said when you come up here, don't plunge too deep. The outer skin's really close by till you get down in this area. Don't plunge too deep, you'll cut all the way through to your outer skin. All right, so I got it all cut off. Test fit this a little bit. I've got a feeling this dent that was in the back is going to come back to bite me, but this should fit something like that. And that's actually lining up, looking really good. Really good. So I'm going to get all these edges cleaned up, get them kind of deburred, and start putting some butt wheel clamps on it and seeing how everything's going to line back up together. All right, here I am in the garage, and it is hot as all get out in here. Wishing I was outside. Feels so much better outside. Good breeze blowing. I am going to do the same thing. This is not lining up the way I want it to line up. So I'm going to get my bottom corner down here tack welded. And then I can pivot this, get me a straight edge on it, and get it. And I'm gonna have to work all this with a screwdriver. The butt weld clamps just ain't gonna work. I've got these on here just to kind of hold the panel up here. And I'm gonna do the other side, spot weld down this way. We'll work all that out that way as I get down. So I'm gonna get set up here, get this bottom corner tack welded, and then just kind of work my way up along the top, getting this plane straight. It's pretty straight right now, but once I tack weld the bottom, this top gap needs to close up just a little, needs to go down. It's kind of hard to get a good straight edge on it because whenever they put these turnbuckle dips on, they've dimpled the bedside in. They've pulled it in more than what it looks. Of course, the bed panel's dull, so it's kind of hard to tell, but they have pulled it in, so it's hard to run a straight edge right through here. But I'm going to try to get me a straight edge from here and make sure it hits out in here around the stake pocket pretty close. So I'm going to get the bottom corner spot welded. Then I'll have to take my screwdriver and little wiggling, wobbling, and get it lined up, get the top corner tacked. Once I get these two corners tacked, the rest of this ought to go pretty quick. If you happen to run into a situation like I have here, I've got a pretty good gap here, but this corner is too tight. It's actually overlapping. Don't want to come up. Don't try to force it. You'll end up creating a pucker. Not that we'd probably ever see it on this bedside, but take you a Dremel tool. I've got one here. I've got some thinner discs in these, but they're prone to break. Take you a cutoff tool. I'm going to just use a Dremel tool with a little reinforced cutoff wheel. And I'm going to go in here and open this up where I have enough room for that to come up. Now, I could take another screwdriver, pry it on up, force it, but you're going to end up creating more than likely a pucker, up or down once you start welding. So we'll get that cut out, and then we'll continue on down through here getting everything lined up. All right, so now I've got a little gap in here. I can get in here, pick it on up, and continue welding. All right, so got it all tacked up. Like I said, I ended up with a little bit bigger gap right down here. I could see where my cut went, but all in all, I've got it tacked up. Turned out pretty good for as straight as these bedsides were. Like I said, this dent caused me a little bit of grief just because the metal was been stretched even back into the area I cut it. I was really wanting to come back farther here, just I don't know, a couple inches to do this. Actually, if I had some really good bedsides, I would like to try cutting one here and shortening it. But like I said, for what this truck is, it's going to turn out really good. I'm going to get it flipped over, get all the front panel tacked up. Bedside's done. Not going to film the other one. No point in making you watch two of them if you watched even the first one. This ain't really like a how-to. You can cut these in multiple places. Just don't be afraid to get out and try. doing something. You'll never know if you can do it if you don't try. So I'm going to show you how it turned out. I think it looks really good. So there it is with the other one laying there. I'm fixing to start on it probably this evening. I've got a lot I've got to try to get done first. I'm not leaving the bed scars. I know some people think I should, but I just can't make myself like them. I don't know. I just can't make myself like them. They turned out great though. I mean, really, really good. I am pleased for what it is, especially. I don't know if this is my first time cutting 67 to 72 bedsides down. I have cut a frame down on one before, but this is my first bedsides. And I think they turned out pretty good. Like I said, I left the dents. Yeah, this one's going to be really fun. So everybody that was upset I cut up a good long bed truck, this bedside's burnt. We're going to use it. I think I can cut it about in the same place as the other one, get my 8 inches out without causing me a whole lot of trouble. I am not doing anything with none of that mess back there. It is staying exactly like it is. These scars, like I said, I'm going to get me some epoxy, get those epoxied, get the backside sealed up. To me, that's one thing when cutting these trucks, when I cut the square bodies down, try to get up in behind there and seal the backside of that weld with something the best you can, you know. Try to wire brush it, clean it. I'm going to actually take me a wire brush, weld me a long extension on it where I can get up in behind these whole fenders. And I'm going to get some of those spray nozzle hoses that goes on a spray can and try to get everything painted up in behind it, maybe rubberized and undercoated again, you know, something just to kind of, I mean, anything's going to help because the back sides of these welds will be the first place they try to rust out, not from the front side. They will try to rust out from the back side forward. So yeah, I'm going to epoxy these. I'm going to go get me a little bit of, I believe this truck was 505 green. Not sure that lacquer paint job put over top of it, what it is. But I'm going to get me a little bit of enamel mixed up, just some acrylic enamel. Hopefully that lacquer has off-gassed long enough that I can mist a little over top of that epoxy and kind of blend these in. So hang around, that'll be another video when I go to doing that. But I'm going to go ahead and turn in, get started cutting this one down. So like I said, don't be afraid to try to do something yourself. You'll never know if you can do it if you don't try. I could have been sitting in the house every evening when I got off work, sitting in the air conditioning, gaining more weight than I already have gained. But don't be afraid to try to do something. I'm not telling you to cut your truck in half, but if you want to shorten it, you know, get you a cheap welder and start practicing welding some sheet metal. Take your time, spot weld. Don't build a lot of heat grinding. A lot of people will warp a panel grinding quicker than they will welding. So I've seen people weld them up perfect, be beautiful, and turn in with a grinder and just build up heat and warp it. So don't be afraid to try to do something. You know, that's the main thing. I don't have a big garage. Actually, I just got a 2-car garage. It's attached to the house. We're probably fixing to change that here pretty soon though, because the wife, she has found 87 model she's wanting to go look at. So I mean, if we end up with 3 trucks, 4, we're gonna have to have somewhere to start putting them. So and on weeks like it's been lately, I just soon work outside as in here. It's cooler out there than it is in here. You know, as long as I'm in the shade, I pop a 10 up, tinker around. But I want to thank everybody for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Next video may be a few more weeks again. I know this one's been a while since I put one out. I'm going to finish cutting this bed floor down, or I'm going to finish cutting this bedside down. I'm not going to film it. I'm going to turn in and get it done. But the next video will be cutting the bed floor. I'll show you how I cut the bed floors, how I like to cut them. I like to cut them on the frame, leave the 4 center bolts in, keep the bed floor bolted down. Cut the front and the back off, shorten them, scoot them up where they need to go, bolt them down. So hang around for that. It may be a few weeks, but again, I want to thank everybody for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thanks.